So one more session of monthly exit commentary. As you know, I cover LA and secondaries, and my colleague Vikram gives you like all the buzz from the really hot IPO market. As you know, a lot of IPOs lined up. So you'll have to wait for Vikram's piece for that. But there's a lot of action in M&A and secondaries as well, suddenly. Last month, we had some of our own in the mix, at least on the secondary piece. And today there are stories that are related to some of our portfolio and plenty of M&A stories. We have about 5 which are in the context of India, tech-backed, VC-backed technology companies in India are very relevant for our monthly commentary. And then we have, of course, some big ticket M&As where some of you might have missed these headlines. Nothing to do with India VC-backed tech, but just some fun snippets on what's happening in the global space and I'm going to touch upon all of them. So welcome back to the July edition, which is obviously getting released in August. So let me start with one of the fun snippets. So if folks who missed it, there was a acquisition of a whiskey brand. I don't know how many of you think this is your favorite whiskey brand. It's Imperial Blue. And I didn't realize this, but it was a part of Pernod Ricard's global portfolio. And the Pernod Ricard India guys owned it. And the buyer is an Indian buyer, surprisingly, called Tilaknagar Industries. I honestly don't know which other brands they own, but the enterprise value was staggering. 4,150 crores of enterprise value. Most of it, 95% of that, was paid cash upfront. And I guess that's the currency du jour of an alcohol business. And only 5% deferred. And it allows for Tilaknagar to basically diversify beyond brandy into whiskey. And they were building a pan-India in IMFL. For folks who don't know this, GK question, Indian-made foreign liquor. So that's the portfolio that they're trying to buy into. And they're trying to accelerate their journey into premium brands. And here's the giant brand called Imperial Blue, which has a much larger market share than you and I imagined. And third largest whiskey in the world by volume. So I thought there was just fun trivia and knowing how large Indian brands can get. I wish we could command the same dollar value as the fancy scotches that everyone has, but it's quite a considerable achievement. And so in the spirits alc-bev space, which is not usually something that VCs can do or will do, there's interesting consolidation. And I think the other fun thing that I saw was the business being transferred via slump sale into a company called Grain and Grape Works. So that is the source of wine and beer, for those who don't know. And 21 plants, 400K plus outlet distribution, fantastic sort of expansion for Imperial Blue. So fun snippets to start with, and then let's get into the VC-backed small acquisitions. So there was a company called Being Cares, let's call it Being, and got bought by a mental health, it's an AI-driven mental health mapping play. Some 2,500 maps that they've actually built. And the company is getting acquired for an undisclosed sum into a company called Listen, Lissun. And basically, the idea is that this foreign company then grows its position in India's mental health market. And they are able to combine clinician-led care with hyper-personalized AI insights, supposedly diagnose 40 plus conditions and treat for them. Purchases include IP rights, team. Incares says that they have close to 1 million users, 500 causes and effects. Exact revenues are not known. Feels like a small aqua-hire. The founders are Varun and Abhishek, and they're joining the acquirer as a CPO and CTO and integrating the AI platform. I think we'll see a sequence of these where there are interesting teams. They're very good at building a great technology product. It's not easy to scale GTM and build a very large company without capital. And then a large company which is missing the technology piece and the AI stack is going to say, hey, I'm going to be able to get a great team and I'm going to be able to build the missing piece and my ability to scale to my customer base. I won't be surprised if we see a whole slew of these over the next 3-4 years. The next one has a little bit of Blume history tucked into it. It's a company called PropTiger. It got bought by Aurum PropTech, which is a listed company. And it was an all-stock share swap, not a very big deal, 86 crores. At one point, PropTiger was riding high and they had ability to service brokerages. real estate brokers who then service their client bases. And that business, interestingly, acquired a business from our fund too called FastFox, and was run by a gentleman called Pallav Pandey, who's actually a Fund 3 founder in a company called Udo. So that's the history and Blume connect to PropTiger. We didn't end up making much money off that residual stake that we sold off PropTiger. And as you can see, it's a relatively tiny deal with 86 crores. We don't have FY25 numbers, but it was only a 10 crore revenue number, grew at about 20% between FY22 and 24. And a strategic called REA actually held a big chunk of this business. And they are getting Aurum shares and swapping into the parent. And it's not like Aurum is a very large company. I think REA gets about 5.5% of Aurum for this. There's a team of almost 350 tech client relationships. Kash Tejwani is, being appointed as the PropTiger CEO. So it seems like a classic strategic buy of technology and talent. So one more deal in that 100 crore vicinity and ballpark, which seems, as you can see, month on month, like the sweet spot where a lot of deals happen. This is a company I think we had seen once in our pipeline, but didn't end up investing in. It's called ShopKirana, and it got acquired by Udaan, $88.5 million deal. Wedge was one of the main investors, and it was an all-stock deal. We have revenue for FY24, which puts it at about 640 crores. The acquisition is not much higher than that. We don't know the exact multiple that was applied, but it seems like somewhere between 1 and 1.25x. And ShopKirana, suggests that it has over 50,000 Kiranas in its network. And basically, Udaan is further trying to expand its coverage of its business model into tier 2, tier 3 cities as well, and clearly saw like a synergy in this space. And so that's, again, not surprising. We are seeing the large unicorns, both listed or unlisted, essentially aggregating more of the companies that are subscale. And the subscale ones always find it challenging to raise more capital, unless they themselves can sell a path to unicorn outcome, and not surprising at all. Dairy has been the fourth of our stories today, is actually a dairy play. I don't know whether it was venture-backed. We didn't dive that deep. It's an interesting play because, again, we have a company, B2B dairy, called Stella Apps. So we've been tracking the space. Dodla Dairy is, from my home state. I started literally, the first ever manufacturing plant was next to the village I used to go and spend my summer holidays in. So that's my connect to Dodla Dairy, next to my hometown of Nellore. Dodla went public a few years ago. And actually, if you look at dairy, somebody does it very well in a regional level, but it's very difficult to then grow it to a national level. So arguably the only national player would be an Amul. Whereas even if you look at a mother dairy, they launched in Mumbai literally this year. And if you look at Hatsun Agro, which is the biggest private car, started in Chennai, but it took like 4 decades to get into other parts of India. Inevitable that regional dairies will have a challenge in scaling. And that's exactly what's happened here. 71 crore acquisition, 100% acquisition for cash. Also, interestingly, somewhere between 1.25x of revenue, and absolute perfect geographic adjacency. This is, textbook. Osam had premium brand in Jharkhand and Bihar, where Dodla doesn't exist. Dodla is more on the southern side, and bought into the farmer network, the processing, and the brand in a market that they don't have any presence in. So you're intensifying your pan-India consolidation, and that's exactly what the big national players will do. That's Hatsun or whether it is Dodla. Our estimate is it was about, the numbers are not disclosed, but we think it's about a 200 to 250 crore business. They process about 110,000 liters a day, 25,000 farmers, 1,000 collection points, 19 chilling centers. The idea was just I'm not throwing those numbers so that you can absorb them, but you should know what like a 2-state dairy business looks like in terms of scale. And, dairy is the most organized, milk is the most organized crop, as they say in India, as everyone knows from the Amul story. But the private sector has actually done very well in mimicking that story and building some phenomenally large businesses. But it's a thin margin business. I mean, it's a utility. Everybody needs milk every day. So you're not going to make a boatload of money. And that forces a certain economies of scale types consolidation. which is what Dodla has done here. I think they're going to keep OSAM as a wholly owned subsidiary and continue to run the business. The last one out of our India lot today, sadly undisclosed sum, but actually a venture for daycare oncology care called Onco, and a tele-oncology platform, treatment services in their centers. And basically, the giant in the space, Apollo Hospitals, bought them. And Onco had raised about 13 million from Axel, Rain Matter, Ulterior, and basically operated the largest of these daycare cancer centers. For those who don't know, if you're actually going through cancer treatment, if you're in that sequence of getting the treatment, it's spread over multiple days. And the patient has to go in much like you go in for dialysis. So there is a need for, having these outside of the hospital system. And so that must have been the ambition, and that would have been the intent for the VCs who backed them. But clearly, Apollo wants, to build verticals along with their horizontal chains of hospitals, as you can see. And this has been merged into the Apollo Health digital arm, I think. And they are consolidating this into their large conglomerate of both hospital and digital channels for patient care. So that rounds up our 5 Q&As for this session.